Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to College Hoops Tonight. This is the first ever episode of College Hoops Tonight. I am your host, Austin Samuels. This College Hoops Tonight is your one-stop shop for all of the big stories in college basketball. Today, let's jump right into it. The first big storyline we got this week is Coach Mark Few, the head coach of the Gonzaga Bulldogs, received a 3-week suspension where he is not to be a part of any Gonzaga basketball operations or coaching. Few received a DUI earlier in September on Labor Day weekend while driving home from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Few will return November 13th for the Zags to take on the Texas Longhorns at home. That will be a big game, national spotlight on that one. Few will be back for that one, so don't worry, Zags fans. He will only be missing the team scrimmage and the team opener against Dixie State, so not too much to worry about there in the loss of Mark Few. Moving on to some two big top recruits committing this past weekend. Let's hop right into it. The first one is five-star wing Cam Whitmore. He's the 6th ranked small forward in the 2022 class. The 6'6" wing committed to Villanova over schools like UNC and Illinois. The scouting report on him is he attacks the rim very well, maybe even best in regards to wings in the 2022 class. However, his jump shot still needs a lot of work. Didn't really shoot a good percentage in high school, and usually that doesn't translate to shooting a good percentage in college. However, we will see. He is young, and Villanova's got a bit of a history. There have been a couple of good shooters to come out of Villanova in the past few years. Excuse me. The other top recruit is five-star power forward Julian Phillips. He's the number 2 power forward in his class. He committed to LSU over schools such as Tennessee and Florida State. The word on him is he's a very, very versatile player. He can shoot, he can take it to the rim, he can play a little defense, he can play make a little bit. He's got all of the tools to be a really, really good all-around basketball player. However, he's just still really rough around the edges and isn't an expert or isn't elite in any of those skills. He's just kind of decent all around, which I don't know about you, but that's a player that I'd like to have on my team, at least as a role player. So Julian Phillips signing with LSU. Now, moving on, we are going to look at the top 25 and some of the biggest movers and biggest surprises in the top 25 so far this year. Alrighty, so we are now looking at the top 25 preseason rankings according to Jeff Lindy in his 2021-2022 preview. So a couple teams that definitely stand out to me are, of course, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, who fell just short of a national championship last year. They get a lot of guys back. They did lose a couple of their biggest stars, including Jalen Suggs and Corey Kispert. However, they bring in the number 1 recruit in the nation in Chet Holmgren, a truly special big man. I don't even know if you want to call him a 4 or a 5, but the kid can shoot from anywhere. He's got great handles. He's one of the best prospects we've ever seen. Gonzaga definitely looks to finally break that streak and win that national championship this year. At number 2, we've got the UCLA Bruins. Definitely a bit of a surprise here to me that they're all the way up ranked at number 2. They went on a miracle run last season in the NCAA tournament. Johnny Juzang led the Bruins all the way to the semifinal game against who else but the Gonzaga Bulldogs. UCLA bringing both of those stars back, including a lot of their other pieces. They really didn't lose anybody this year, so that is why they're ranked all the way up at number 2. Another interesting team is the Purdue Boilermakers, all the way up at number 5. This is definitely a surprise. Purdue, this is the highest they've been ranked in years. The big strength of this team is they are big on the inside with a 7'5" center. They don't really shoot the ball all that well from 3, from the free throw line or anything, but their size is overpowering, and that is predicted to top a lot of the teams in the Big Ten. So moving on here, at number 11, we got the Baylor Bears. So the Bears, after winning the national championship, come in ranked at 11th next year. They lost a couple of their big players. Of course, one of their best players, Davion Mitchell, went pro and was drafted in the lottery. They do have a couple people returning, including big-name player Matthew Meyer and Flo Thamba. However, again, with losing players like Jared Butler, Maceo Teague, Mark Vital, and Davion Mitchell, you're definitely going to take a big hit there. At number 21, we've got the North Carolina Tar Heels. Definitely a big season for them. Coach Roy Williams hung it up and retired last year, at the end of last year. So Hubert Davis will be taking over in Chapel Hill to run the UNC Tar Heels. They look to be pretty good this year. They haven't lost too many players besides Day'Ron Sharpe. However, they do need better guard play for sure. We know that big men and getting the ball in the paint and rebounding is their strong suit. Moving on, number 24, St. Bonaventure, the Bonnies, ranked in the top 25. Definitely one of the best mid-major teams in the country coming out of the A-10. They shoot the ball really well. They've got really good guard play. Exactly the formula you want out of a mid-major team. That is what St. Bonaventure does. Have them pretty high here, all the way up at 24. Lastly, the Colorado Buffaloes are coming in at 25 after coming in with a top 15 recruiting class in the nation. Once again, Tad Boyle leads his Buffaloes into the season riding high. Once again, they lost their 5th-year senior McKinley Wright the fourth, one of the best players in school history at point guard. However, there's a lot of depth behind him, and the Buffaloes look to be really, really good this season. Moving on, let's take a look at, let's take a look at the early bracketology here from Joey Brackets, Joe Lenardi on ESPN. This is really, really early, so again, take these with a grain of salt. However, it's just interesting to look at them throughout the season. So the 4 number 1 seeds, we discussed 2 of them already. The Gonzaga Bulldogs and the UCLA Bruins are the number 1 and number 2 seeds, or overall seeds. They're both number 1s, according to Joey Brackets. Kansas, the Jayhawks, coming in at the other number 1 seed, and the Texas Longhorns coming in as the other number 1 seed. As we talked about earlier, Mark Few coming back for that game at home against Texas. That game could very well likely feature 2 top 5 ranked teams on November 13th. So mark your calendars for that one. Looking at the preseason bubble, so the last 4 byes we got here: Richmond coming out of the A-10, St. Mary's coming out of the West Coast Conference, Colorado coming in out of the Pac-12, which is interesting because they are in the top 25, according to Jeff Lindy, and BYU coming out of the West Coast Conference. So 2 West Coast Conference teams getting the last in the last 4 buys. The last 4 in the Colorado State Rams, coming out of the Mountain West Conference. They look to make it back after being the first team out last year. Really, really good offensive team. Seton Hall coming out of the Big East. Rutgers and Iowa coming out of the Big Ten. So now looking at the first 4 out, the Oklahoma Sooners coming out of the Big 12, the Mississippi State Bulldogs coming out of a really, really tough SEC this year. And then we got the Washington State Cougars, my Washington State Cougars, coming out of the Pac-12, a very, very improved young team for the Cougars this year. St. John's, the Red Storm, coming out of the Big East. And then the next 4 out, we got Syracuse coming out of the ACC, and Creighton coming out of the Big East, and Arizona, who was ranked in the top 25, according to Jeff Lindy, is on the next 4 out. So definitely it doesn't quite match up there when you look at it. And then lastly, the last team in the next 4 out, the Wisconsin Badgers. So definitely looking at the bracketology. Once again, this is very, very early. However, you can already tell there are some big name teams on the bubble coming into the season. It will be very interesting to see how this changes throughout the year. Well, and that's just about going to wrap it up for us here at College Hoops Tonight, here on Friday. It's been a great episode so far, and really would like you guys to tune back in. I think this is going to be a great series, and you remember, this is your one-stop shop for all big stories in college basketball. And with that, I'm your host, Austin Samuels, and you've been watching College Hoops Tonight. We'll see you next time.